Bryson, welcome to Forever Forward.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on here. I really love your mission. What you're doing here, I think is really cool. Just feel like everyone has a story to tell. And we forget that, like when you're driving on the highway and you just look over and you see this random person, there's just another person and you forget that they have a story that's so unique.
I couldn't agree more.
And it's mind blowing that there's so many people out there and we just kind of forget that there's so many stories out there to tell. And I love that that's what you want to do is tell stories. So I'm excited to be on here and share my story, and hopefully it can help other people too.
Well, I'm sure it's going to help other people, and you certainly have an extraordinary story to share. Maybe we can just get right into it here. So you've lost over 90 pounds, basically three-figure weight loss.
Yeah.
And first of all, props to you. So congratulations. That's unbelievable. But
Thank you.
I guess my first question before we get into your actual weight loss journey, take me back to when you were heavier. What did it feel like physically and mentally to be overweight?
It is a completely different experience. And I'm sure a lot of people who are watching who are where I started are going to relate to this, that it is just mentally exhausting, taxing. I was extremely depressed. I had no motivation. I was tired all the time. I couldn't stop myself from eating because I had to eat, but my relationship with food was horrible. I didn't know how to eat. I was never taught how to properly eat. And it got to the point where I just had kind of no desire in life to just really try or do anything. And so I just kept on going, and it just kept on being miserable and tired and exhausted. And
I can imagine that with something like that, it must be daunting. Like, where do you even start? You almost feel like you're so far gone.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And the funny thing is I've tried so many times over the years growing up, just trying to lose weight, trying all those fad diets, keto, all those stupid diets in my opinion. And
yeah.
I would lose like 5 pounds and I'd be super excited about it. And then I'd gain it all back in like a week or two. And then it would just perpetuate the issue.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you had maybe tried in the past and then it didn't necessarily work, or you weren't able to keep up that discipline, or for whatever reason, it just didn't go the way you were wanting to.
Yeah.
But what was the moment where you decided, okay, things are going to change for real now? What was that like?
Yeah. So it was about 2022. I was really struggling that year with just my mental health and my physical health, obviously. I started seeing signs of diabetes. My health was red flags everywhere. And I was trying so hard. I would trying to cut out calories and stuff and try all those little things, and it just nothing was working. And then I was in the process of auditioning for this musical because, like I mentioned, some of my posts online that I do musical theater, and that was one of my passions that's just kept me going, kept me active, and it's the one thing that like I pushed through all the pain to do, and in my work too as well. But during this time, I was auditioning for this musical that I really wanted to be in. And I, got through the process, got the callbacks, and we had this dance audition, and you can imagine as a 320-pound dude, dancing's pretty tough. And
I can imagine.
Yeah. But I still did it somehow. And during that callback, I busted up my knee really badly because the movement was so precise and unique that my body just could not handle that pressure and that flexibility. And I just busted my knee so bad. I tore every single ligament in my knee. And I remember so many things going through my brain that day about how stupid I felt, but also how much I wish I had lost the weight already so I could have, been part of this. And I got cast in the musical, even though I hurt myself. They cast me as one of the supporting lead roles in that musical that I was going for, which was really awesome. And it was really grateful. But I ended up dropping out so that I could heal, first of all, because it wasn't a good idea to go straight back to dancing a week later after tearing every single ligament in my knee. But that next week, I had so many thoughts going through my brain. It was like, what do I do? Do I do this musical? Do I do not? And I drop out, and I'm like, okay, I am bedridden. I got nothing going on in my life right now. I am so miserable and so depressed. And I was like, this is really hard. This is so hard right now. And I realized something in my head. I was like, what's also really hard and miserable? Losing weight. And so I made a choice there today, on that day, it was actually January 1st, fun fact, which is kind of funny.
So the new year marks, like that was the beginning of the new you.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to choose something today. I'm going to choose my hard. Right now is really hard, but also losing weight is really hard. Which hard do I really want to deal with? And so I made a commitment to myself that I was going to choose the hard that is going to benefit me in the future and make the future less hard, because doing the hard that I had right then was not going to benefit me in the future. And it was just going to get harder. So I was going to choose the hard that was going to make my life easier. And so I spent many of those days bedridden researching about weight loss and really taking the time to dive deep into it and really understand the science and a lot of the issues up here too. Because what a lot of people don't realize about weight loss is that it's 90% a mental game, genuinely. Sure, you could eat healthier, you could follow these influencers online and their advice for eating healthy, but that's not going to change anything unless you change what's up here. You could still gain weight eating a salad every single day. It just depends on how much you eat of it. And I like to say that the poison is in the dosage.
Yep.
And I've heard that from a creator, and it might be, I think either Mike Pridgeon, weight loss, or Noah Tanner, biggest fella. Either one of them said that, and it's just clicked in my head since then. I know a lot of my favorite weight loss influencers have that motto as well. So I definitely did not coin it, but I took it from them. And I live by that, honestly. You could eat whatever the frick you want and still live a great and healthy life.
I think you make losing weight not look like it has to be miserable. And in fact, one thing you've spoken about is that it can be simplified. It doesn't need to be complicated. I mean, is there anything you can share around, like, at a high level, how you can make this, maybe not seem so daunting and maybe not seem so complex? And it seems like that's one of the mantras that you developed along the way is like, hey, it's just a few simple things that you need to get right every day. And if you consistently do them, you achieve the results you're looking for over time.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly how I feel. One of the ways that you can really just simplify it in the beginning is to just find the foods you like and find a alternative version of that food that is going to benefit you better. Like, for example, I love rice, and I found out that cauliflower rice is really delicious if you cook it right.
There you go.
And it's a lot lower calorie, and it's got better benefits for you with being better veggies and stuff. Rice is great. You can eat rice. I'm not saying don't eat rice, but cauliflower rice worked better for me to lose weight because it tasted good and it had good macros.
Yeah.
So it's
right.
finding those little swaps. Like, I know a lot of people take peanut butter and they take PB Fit instead. It tastes like peanut butter, but it's got better macros. And so it's just really finding those strategic swaps to enjoy the things you like, but in ways that'll benefit you. It's choosing your heart again.
I love that. And I feel like, one thing that in conversations that I've had with folks is that one reason why I think they're scared to start that weight loss journey is they feel like they need to kind of uproot their whole life. Like, everything's going to change. Your diet's going to change. Your routine's going to change. And maybe some of that is true. But in this instance, with the diet component, like, you can find a variant of certain foods that are not a complete other food. It's just a slightly different thing that might taste very similar, but not be as bad for you. I think that makes the idea a little bit less scary to me.
Yeah. And I agree. And that's something I learned when I was, researching weight loss, and I came upon amazing weight loss influencers who talked about this, and it made me really excited. Like, I really wanted to try it now. Like, I was like, wait, this is actually easy. And I learned another thing, is like, yes, my whole lifestyle is going to be uprooted, but it's not going to be uprooted in one day. It's going to take a long time. And so just starting out small was the biggest thing. Like, I made one change, and that was, today I'm going to have some potatoes instead of, like, whatever crappy thing I was going to eat. Like, I just made small changes, and I started, okay, well, I'm going to go outside for a little bit. They normally don't go outside, so I'll go outside for a little bit. Every day I tried to add something new to my routine that would positively benefit me. Like, it didn't have to be anything grand. Like, I think one day I just, tried cutting out 100 calories. That was barely nothing, but in the long term, it'll add so much more to my journey. And that's what happened, is taking those baby steps over time, just adding small things and small improvements that become habits over time.
Yeah.
And then
it's almost like the idea of getting 1% better every day.
Exactly. Are you familiar with the Atomic Habits?
Absolutely. James Clear.
It's 100%. I've never read the book, and I need to.
Okay.
But from what I know about that book, I lived the Atomic Habit into my own life, and that's how my weight loss, succeeded, was because
here's a question for you. And, I know as you began that journey, I know that you must have felt empowered. But were there ever days where either you maybe relapse isn't the right word, but where you ate unhealthy or you went back to habits you wish that you could have kicked right off the bat? Or no, was it kind of like step after step in the right direction?
This great question. Yes and no. So, um, every day I'm falling back into old habits. Every day
Okay.
there's always something. And there were days that like, I'd feel like, oh man, I'm doing horrible. I could have done this, that, like I feel like I'm not making the progress I should be making. And then I look back and I'm like, holy crap, whoa, you know, I think it's just more important on focusing on the now. What am I doing now? What can I do in the next
Right.
10 minutes? What happened yesterday is yesterday. It's gone. There's no changing that. I just need to focus on what I can do for the future. If I screw up, that's okay. I learn from that. We learn
Well,
from failure.
I love that you have that attitude. And, I am sitting here and I wish I could tell you that I have 100% of that attitude, but there are definitely times where I struggle to be, I don't know, super present or look forwards, look backwards.
Hmm.
Are there any tips that you have,
Well,
maybe just about being present and how to be better at it?
you know, I wouldn't say I'm perfect at it. Like that's my
Yeah.
attitude, but like I'm the same way. Like I beat myself up way too much, and I'm not present enough. So it's just more like reminding yourself that that is your attitude is my tip. Like
Yeah.
remind myself this is what I want to feel like and this is what I want to be like. I want to be more present. I think that's my biggest tip for that is just really reminding yourself of those things. And it can be hard. So sometimes I like to write it down. Or so like when I go back to my journal or to my phone app, I'll be like, oh yeah, I wrote that down. I need to think about that more. But it's just one of those things where you just have to try every single day. And
Yeah.
you're not going to be perfect. That's one thing I like to say in my videos is just, you're not going to be perfect. So just try. Just try.
Well, here's another question, and again, this is relevant for my life, right? I started this YouTube channel in January, and it was a huge leap of faith for me. And the idea of doing this, right, sitting in front of a camera and speaking with other people and being vulnerable was like such a foreign concept to me. But a
Yeah.
part of me felt this pull to do it. Like I really need to
Yeah.
take
And
that
you're
leap
good
of
at it
faith.
too.
Oh,
So
well, thank you for saying that. And once I started doing it, it got a
you
little
got more
bit less
comfortable.
scary. And I guess my question to you on that same vein is like, I can imagine that the idea of taking a walk or eating healthy or going to the gym was like a really foreign and scary
And
concept. But
yeah.
what was it like what were the feelings like once you started to actually incorporate that into your daily routine?
I'd say it's the same kind of thing you said. It's just you feel more comfortable and you
Yep.
enjoy it more too.
Right.
Like, and when I first lost my 30 pounds, I never touched the gym. I never exercised. It was all just eating and my brain. But once I started getting to the gym, it was so scary. I was worried that everyone was sending me, looks and judgments,
I bet.
but I realized everyone's there for the same reason. They're all there to better
In
themselves.
fact, I would wager to bet that the people in the gym that are quote unquote really fit actually look at, individuals that are new to the gym and are like fired up for them.
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
how those
I've
people might feel
experienced
a little insecure,
many
but
people.
like, yeah,
I've experienced many
yeah,
people who just wanted to help. And there's the odd, random person who's not nice. But that's anywhere. You go anywhere, there's going to be someone who's not nice, you know?
yes,
But as I kept on going to the gym, I felt more comfortable. I felt welcomed in that community, and over time, as I lost my weight, people noticed and people, like looked up to me and, really liked me. And so it just, you will learn to like the things that seem scary if you just do them. It's a little bit of exposure therapy, which I love exposure therapy as well. That's a whole nother topic
I'm sure we
there.
could do a whole nother like episode on that,
Yeah.
and maybe we will. And before we get into, because I do think you have some of the most pragmatic weight loss tips, recipes, and things that people will find so useful. Um, I am I am very curious. So I know you didn't do this whole journey by yourself. You have a friend and a coach who's helped you along the way. Maybe could you talk a little bit about him and maybe the importance of not necessarily having a coach, or maybe the importance of having a coach, but just having people in your corner when you are undergoing these massive life changes.
Yeah, definitely. And I 100% don't equate all my success to just myself. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm the one who applied all the principles. I did work with a coach. His name is Noah Tanner, the Big Fella Fitness. And he's an amazing dude. He really just cares about people. He's an influencer himself. He doesn't like the word influencer, and neither do I really.
Okay. Okay.
But I have to say influencer because that's the term. But he also is a businessman and he helps people change their lives and lose weight. And I remember when I first started my weight loss journey, had watched his content a lot, and then I lost like 50 to 60 pounds myself. And then I got to this point where I just like hadn't really addressed too many of the deeper issues in my brain and in my lifestyle. I had done a lot of the principles of weight loss, and it was working really well, but I got to this point where I felt stuck and I didn't know what to
Right.
do. And I didn't really have a lot of people in my corner. Like a lot of people were impressed by me, but I didn't have anyone that I could really talk about those deeper issues with and they'd understand, because Noah himself has lost 110 pounds. So he understands the deep issues that I struggled with. The people who, saw my weight loss online and, around me in my person, they don't understand. And so it was nice to have somebody who understood those issues and was able to help me navigate them. One of the things we navigated was why, why do I get hungry when I'm not hungry? There was a lot of
And do you
triggers.
think do you think that's a deeper than just like you're actually hungry? Do you think it's a stress thing? It's a
Oh yeah,
mental
it's way
thing?
deeper. Like there was a lot of like we had to recognize that there are social triggers, there are,
Ah,
environmental triggers, there is, mental triggers of just like, depression and whatever. We dug into those issues and we worked on them, and I could not have continued the journey, and wouldn't have been able to finish the journey, which I plan on finishing the next year, without his support. Because, so yes, I think it's really good to have someone in your corner that knows what you're going through. It's great to have people in your corner who are celebrating you, but also someone who really understands what you're going through is really helpful. And that's kind of what I want to do for people is just to kind of be that presence online that's part of that crowd that just understands what you're going through, and I want to help
s-
people learn and grow and change their lives.
well, it's more than just having support. I feel like it's also feeling seen and
Hmm.
understood. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I really understand what you're going through. Not only am I proud of you, but I know how hard this is because maybe I did it too. Is what it feels like.
Hmm.
That's what he was able to provide for you.
Yeah. And he showed me that someone like me could do that, like he has been through my shoes in a different way. He walked different paths, but he was still in my shoes.
Two quick questions before we maybe move on to the next section. The first is, um, you alluded to being quote unquote finished with this. What does end game look like for you? I mean, look, you've achieved more than I think most people would like to in their whole lifetime when it comes to weight loss. So I'm very curious to you, when will you be satisfied, or will you ever be satisfied?
So great question. Couple answers. First one is that it's hard to say that there's going to be a moment where I'm satisfied. I know that I'll never be satisfied. No one ever really is satisfied with themselves. And so right now, even though I know that I'm quote unquote not finished with my journey fully, but I am at a good point, if I stopped right now, I'll live a great life, um,
Yes.
like I put myself in the position to that, but to feel really satisfied with it is not to get to a goal, but it's to love yourself, And so that's something I'm working on right now, is just trying to love who I am and who I was and who I will be. So that
I love
there's
that.
not really ever going to be like, oh, this is when I'm done. There's always going to be a new goal. So when I say I'm finished with my journey, that just means I'm going to hit that goal and I'll be finished with that journey. Then I can make a new journey, if that makes sense.
Uh, I feel like that's, highly successful and driven people, I feel like, have this. There's always this mountain that they're trying to climb, and then they reach that peak and they realize that was only the first of many additional
Yeah.
peaks. But reaching that peak of, maybe for you saying, okay, for right now, I feel good. I mean, this has been years in the making. So I just want to
Yeah.
say
Thank
congratulations.
you
And
so much. I really
I'm
appreciate it.
not gonna I'm not gonna pretend to know everything that went into this, but
Right.
just given the fact that you lost almost 100 pounds, my guess is that this was a daunting task that you overcame.
Yeah. And it still is every single day. I'll be honest, yesterday I was feeling so down on myself because I'm like, I should be so much further, like
Yeah,
there's a lot of times where like fell back into old habits. And if I had just not done that, I'd be a lot further, in my journey. But then I have to have like this like snap back to reality. I'm like, dude, you lost 90 freaking pounds. Cut yourself a
it's
little
crazy.
slack, and I've come to this point where I realize like I have a lot more time than I think I do. Growing up, I was always the kid that's like, I have to do this now. I have to get this done now. Life is short, like, but as an
Yes.
adult, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, like it's so much longer than I thought, and I have time to fix these things and work on these things. So and I think it's actually more appropriate to take longer on your weight loss because then there's benefits of like not having as much loose skin or, like actually enjoying it.
On that topic of sort of transforming yourself over time, one of the things that I've struggled in the past when I've gotten a little heavier and then tried to kind of pare it back is eating. That's always been a vice of mine, candidly.
Same.
And one
Yep.
thing that one thing that I tried was, hey, how can I make macro-cognizant recipes that I like but are better for me? Full transparency, that never worked. I would make like one healthy sandwich and then end up having four more. So like that
Mhm.
just didn't work out. But it seems like you've come up with some really, I guess, useful recipes and also have identified some great macro-cognizant snacks that you rely on to help you stay disciplined. Would you mind sharing what a few of those are?
Yeah, definitely. And I plan on making a lot more content on those things, and those recipes. I made one about those burritos, that like
By the way, which look amazing.
they're delicious. And even being
Yeah.
reheated, they're amazing. You freeze
Great.
them too. Like it's
Yeah.
just perfect. My biggest first step in trying to like figure all that out was to understand that I want to, well, to understand that protein is really good for us. It's really good for our muscles and our joints and our health. And so I focused a lot on protein, finding things that are high protein. I like to shoot for this 10-to-1 ratio where it's like for every 10 calories, I want 1 gram of protein. So if like I'm having a protein bar that's 100 calories, I want 10 grams of protein.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
and
That's kind
so,
of your rule of thumb.
yeah. And I learned that extra lean ground beef for the extra $1.50 is so worth it because it's the same amount of protein for lower calories. And so I'll find these, I'll just be very diligent in making sure that I follow that like 10-to-1 ratio as much as I could. Sometimes it's fine if you don't have it perfect. And I'll just like mix and match like different ingredients. Like I'll find all the meats that I enjoy that have good, macros. I'll find, sides that I like that have good macros. Potatoes are really satiating. There's like this graph that they're
No.
like the top one, satiating food of all time. I don't know where it came from. I just saw it, but I'm pretty sure it's true because my body says it's true. So
Yeah, and what I was gonna say was it's funny because potatoes can either be prepared like in oil and deep fried as French
hmm
fries, or I assume the way you do it is maybe you put them in the oven, put some spices on them, and then
yeah.
you get like a whole meal for
Oh yeah.
not a lot of
Oh yeah,
calories.
and potatoes have so much. I could go on a whole rant about potatoes I love potatoes. They're like my favorite thing ever. But you could do a lot with potatoes and you don't need oil. And that's what people realize that potatoes, when they become unhealthy is when you're drenching them in a lot of oil.
Right.
Well, I mean, unhealthy. I don't really like to use that term a lot. It's the dosage, really. You would still eat, the battered fries but anyways, my point is that I'll just like air fry them. They taste amazing. Put a little
Nice.
broil setting on them, put some seasonings, find some low calorie sauces like Baby Ray's. What is this? Baby Ray's,
Sweet baby
Sweet Baby
rays.
Ray's. They have a no sugar added version. It's like 10 calories. It's amazing. It tastes like the original. So like I'll just put that with my ground beef and my potatoes and make like a little burger bowl, put some pickles in, or I'll make
Oh, that
the
sounds
burritos
delicious.
that I make, today I just got this like brisket thing from this meat company and I threw it in with some cauliflower rice and some potatoes, mixed it all up. It's huge. It's a huge meal. I couldn't finish it, so I'm probably gonna eat it tomorrow too. But it's like 900 calories and 100 grams of protein almost. And it's just mixing, matching those little like protein ingredients, those sides like the cauliflower rice, the potatoes, things like that. Another thing I like to do is Greek yogurt mixed with those sugar-free Jello cups, and then some pretzels, and
Interesting.
it's just finding those little ingredients and mixing and matching them, the stuff you like, the stuff you enjoy. It's just off the top of my head, but like I plan on making more videos too, and I could just go on forever on those, honestly, because there's just so many
I'll
different
be
ways.
I'll be sure to stay tuned.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what I love too is you really make it sound so simple because it actually is that
It
simple.
actually is
Um,
simple, and everyone just overcomplicates it. They think they have to be perfect. They think they have to have everything figured out, but it's just the simple, small little changes that you need to make,
it sounds
And
like you've just identified like, hey, I like these 5 to
mhm.
10 to 15, whatever it is, foods that I can just combine in various ways and cook up and use
Yeah,
spices and not use any oil.
and
Like
mix it
it's
around and
really
change it.
and
And
mix it around.
here's another thing. I'm lactose intolerant too, which makes it completely harder. And it's still possible.
Why is it that it makes, well, I guess obviously because it restricts you more, but I'm actually lactose intolerant as well. So I'm personally curious.
Okay,
What
yeah.
about being lactose intolerant makes this especially hard?
Because so many recipes call for dairy and you have to
Ah,
find the substitutes. But I made it work, like today I made some banana bread with coconut oil instead of butter and it worked.
yeah,
You just have to be willing
yeah,
to put the research in because a lot of people give up because they're like, I don't know how to do this. So I can't do it. But I'm very against
yeah,
that. Like I am very against it being like, yeah, I don't know. So I guess it can't happen then. So I'm very against that. I will research the crap out of something until I know it's not possible. So I recommend
yeah.
doing that if you feel like you don't know how to lose weight and so you just give up. No, 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 no. Research the crap out of it. And
And you'll figure it out.
yeah, you will. Like the info's out there. It's just, you got to take the time and energy to do it. And I know it's hard for a lot of people, and it was hard for me. It took me being bedridden to actually do that. But I hope that me saying this right now will make people realize like, oh, the info's out there. I just need to go find it. And there is also a lot of bad info out there. If anyone's trying to sell you something, don't listen to them. That's my first
Yeah,
word of advice
that is a
there.
great point.
And if they have not lost 100 pounds or a lot of weight, usually don't take what they say either. But on the contrary, there are some really awesome people who do understand these things that haven't been through it. Like there's this guy on TikTok named Liam who
Okay.
calls out this behavior of people trying to sell things and sell myths and legends. So there's people like him that are great. But then there was also people like him who aren't. And you just have to take everything with a grain of salt and don't just take someone's word immediately. Like when somebody tells me something, I want to trust them and believe in that's it. But I always back up.
Me too.
I always back it up.
Me too.
I spend time making sure it's accurate. And so I would recommend if you're trying to lose weight, when you're looking through that info, a lot of people fall for the first thing that just seems to be the miracle thing, that will
Because
change
it's the
everything.
easiest. Because
easiest.
fundamentally, I don't think we, I think we do want to work hard, but I also think we want to get results quick.
Exactly.
And
But I would just advise them to take more time because guess what? Taking more time is going to make you happier.
and it's the only thing that will actually work.
Mm-hmm. So take the time to research, take the time to lose weight. Like don't rush it, And honestly, I lost weight pretty fast too. And if I had taken more time, I probably would have been better for me. But I'm okay with how everything happened though. I'm very content and very happy with it, but you can take time, 100%.
Awesome. I think maybe to close this section before I move on to something else that's really cool and important, my final question is, and I think I know your answer here, but I think a lot of people are afraid of dieting because they think it has to consist of these bad tasting foods and they've got to limit themselves and they can only eat like spinach and veggies. I think your answer would be, in fact, no. And you can actually have a great time on a diet.
Oh yeah. I've had so much fast food while losing weight. It's just genuinely, I like going out with friends and doing things and you just have to learn how to, like I said earlier, those swaps. It's possible at fast food restaurants too. Like my buddy Noah, who I worked with, with the weight loss, biggest fella, he teaches about like fast food swaps where like maybe instead of getting a side, you just get another burger because it's more protein.
First of all, I've never heard that advice before, but that actually sounds so logical. Why have I never done that before?
Exactly. Like instead of a French fry, which is, deeply soaked in oil, like potatoes are great, but it's deeply soaked in oil, just get another burger or do a double stack, like that sounds more exciting to me. Like I'm a huge burger guy. So,
but like as somebody, if it were me, that would make weight loss seem less intimidating.
Yeah.
Let me eat healthy most of the time, and then let me go hit up McDonald's and I'll get a double cheeseburger, and that's fine.
Another example
and the rest
is
of the week,
Popeyes.
I eat great.
Popeyes, you can get blackened chicken instead of getting the crispy, battered chicken. Also, the battered chicken has dairy in it, so the blackened doesn't.
So lactose intolerant people, there you go.
Yeah, and the same thing for Raising Cane's, just go get naked tenders. Although I will admit I'm not a fan of the naked tenders there because
although the cane sauce, I don't know if you have it, but it's it's quite good.
The cane sauce is a killer.
I went to school in Boston and they had a Raising Cane's on our campus. So we were frequenters of it. And I was getting the full thing with the fries.
That
with
brings
the double
up
Texas toast.
Like another point that I have that makes weight loss so hard is that the convenience of fast food and how addicting it is. Like I genuinely would not be surprised if there's an addictive chemical in that cane sauce. I'm very against like the the movement that is like what body positivity has become to be. Like I loved body positivity growing up, that movement, but now
Yeah.
it has become very pro being unhealthy, and I'm not a fan of that.
Mm,
But I'm also not a person to like be against those people too, because like you have to understand that the world is against those people. They are victims, but they also are accountable too. Like it's
I think
very,
that's such a well balanced take from somebody who knows that feeling well.
yeah, like I'm full aware that I could have made the changes sooner, but I'm
Yeah.
also partly a victim as well. I hate the victim mentality as well when it's a double-sided coin, you know, it's double sword. The world is against people being healthy. The world that we live in, the food that we put in
I
stores,
certainly agree.
but also you have the ability to make change if you just take the baby step. And so,
Well, and what I love is in your case especially, there's two ways you can take this is, hey, here's where I'm at today. I'm overweight, I'm not happy, I'm not healthy, but I'm going to remain a victim because that's easy.
right, yeah.
Or I'm going to take up this mantle, which is going to be difficult and going to be hard, but I'm going to suffer through it and come out on the back end a better person, more healthy, more
Hmm.
confident, etc., because I suffered through it. Like that is a mindset that is not easy to have,
It's
but I feel
not.
like once you can garner that, like that can help you in your the rest
Hmm.
of your life.
Choose your hard, 100%. And it is not an easy mindset to switch to. I get that, but it's just
Yeah.
showing up for yourself every day and saying, this is what I'm going to try to do today. And if you fail that
Yeah.
day, don't let it affect your next day. Just be like, okay, well, I messed up. What am I going to do differently the next day? You know, like it's hard, but you got to choose that hard so you can be happier in the end.
I love it, man. And so maybe a couple questions we can end on here. And this is not an area we've touched on thus far, but one that I know is a big part of your life is musicals. And you had put a piece of content up, I believe it was a YouTube video around
Mm,
a scene that you had to do where you were actually shirtless.
yeah.
Can you talk about what that was like? You know, obviously, given the fact that I'm sure for you it was one of your deepest insecurities. What was that like being on stage?
So I'll give a little background on real quick on why I do theater first. Growing up, being the chubby kid, being that, you know, I wasn't physically active. I didn't do well in sports. And so I also grew up a magician's son. My father is a magician, who also runs a haunted house. So like I grew up in a performing family, people who really like theatrics. And so they kind of said, hey, why don't you try out doing theater? And so I did theater in junior high, fell in love with it. I hated singing.
Okay.
I hated it so much. And then I grew to love it. And then I grew to become like this just obsessed theater kid. And so I did a lot of theater in high school and still do it out of high school. And during my weight loss journey, I realized that it became a lot easier for me to do theater as well, which was really exciting. And one of the
And
main
is that
reasons,
because of the physical element of
yeah, the
it,
physical, a
or
lot
was it
easier
okay?
to dance and a lot easier to have more energy and give a more solid and believable performance. I also really love theater because it made me feel like I belong. And I love going to see like movies and plays and stuff. And you come out usually feeling like this empowerment, you know, if the story was told right. And that's what I love about theater is you get to like put yourself into that story when it's live on a stage, you know, like you feel like you're actually part of it. And if it's written well, it could impact your entire life, you know?
Well, one thing that I love a lot, and you know, admittedly, I haven't seen as many musicals, but I've certainly seen a lot of live shows, and I've also been to the movies. I think as all of us have.
Hmm.
And one thing that I've noticed lately, especially as I've gone to the movies, is there are sometimes characters in films that it doesn't matter what they're playing. Maybe they're playing a Jedi or they're playing a daughter in a horror movie or who knows what the role is. But for some reason, I can connect and relate to that character
Hmm.
in a way that I can't connect and relate to other people in my life.
Yeah.
And those people aren't on the screen are not real because they're playing, you know, from a script. But there's something very profound about a well done role that almost makes me feel like that person knows what I'm going through. That person has empathy for me. That
Yeah.
person has advice to share. Like that, I think, is one of the most powerful things about the performing arts is like you can really impact people's lives.
Yeah, and sometimes like you'll leave learning something about yourself that you
There
want
you
to
go.
change and do, and so that's why I really love it. Is because like I'm able to feel like I belong, you know, and I'm able to tell stories and change other people's lives. And entertainment, I love entertainment, and sometimes people just need a good laugh, you know.
Absolutely,
People need
man.
to get out of their funk, and just enjoy something. And so that's also another thing. And then recently I've been doing exclusively theater or doing plays for a theater that supports cancer. So that's also been another thing, is like, it just feels empowering to help other people's lives. This theater, they pick somebody who's battling cancer, that they give the funds to, a portion of the funds.
Oh my gosh.
And it just, you can see just how much light and positivity it brings to their life. For this last one, Seven Brides and Seven Brothers, which was the one where I went shirtless for, that man you could just tell he was very grateful, and it really changed his life. He had lost hope in his life. He thought he was gonna die, but after being brought into this theater scene and feeling like he had people who cared for him and loved him and didn't even know him, but wanted to see him succeed in life, was just very humbling for him, and it gave him hope to continue. And so that's another reason I really love it. And when I first auditioned for this musical, I had no idea that I was going to be shirtless for it. I only did it because my roommate was bugging me to do it, because he does theater as well. And I was like, okay, this sounds fun, doing a musical with all my guy friends, because it's a musical that has a lot of guys in it, which is very uncommon in musical theater. We auditioned, and then once we got in, we realized that we were going to have to be shirtless. If anyone's familiar with Seven Brides or Seven Brothers, they know the classic song "Going Courtin'," where Millie, their sister-in-law, is teaching them how to be men, but they don't wash their laundry, and so she has to take the laundry away from them, and they have to come out in blankets while she washes them, and then she teaches them how to dance. And so I'm on stage dancing shirtless was what was going to happen, and it scared the crap out of me, because obviously I was still in my weight loss journey. I still am, obviously, but at that time I was like 20 pounds heavier back in January. Yeah. And I was like so scared. I had never gone shirtless in my entire life, ever since I was like a little kid. I think the last time I'd gone shirtless in public was when I was like 6 at the beach. So it was very frightening. And I had the idea of like coworkers coming to see me, and family and friends and people I don't know seeing me shirtless. It just frightened me. But I really wanted to get over that fear. I really wanted to overcome that challenge. Like, I overcome the challenge of losing weight, and I've overcame a lot of other things. Like, I was like, if I can do that, I can overcome this too, and it'll make me stronger and more confident. And so I told my buddies, I was like, hey, let's go to these hot springs up north, and let's go shirtless, all of us together. And I'm going to lose my marbles, but it's going to make me better for it. And so we went that night, and the entire night I was just kind of like this, with my shirt off, just like covering my nips, because I was so embarrassed. But it got me out of my shell. And then we did it again, and then we did it again. And then eventually it came time to actually do the shirtless scene in front of all of our peers before an audience would happen. And, they were all like just so encouraging to me. They are amazing people. And we run out there shirtless, and everyone's laughing because it's funny that we're dancing shirtless. And I just started to become really comfortable with myself and who I am and my body.
That's so beautiful.
Exposure therapy.
And back to exposure therapy. Mm-hmm. In that moment, right before you ran out on stage that night in that scene, was there still nerves? Or that time you like, let's do it? Okay.
And even after I had done that scene, practiced it in dress rehearsals many times, like I was still nervous. There was always the possibility that I could drop my blanket on stage. And you know what? I did. When my coworkers were there that night, I dropped my blanket right in front of them. I had underwear on though, like we weren't actually naked. Can't do that. It's not that realistic, but it was supposed to be implied. But yeah, everyone saw my booty, in my underwear. But I realized that no one cares really. Like, it was hilarious because that dude dropped his blanket. It's not hilarious. Oh, cause that dude is, overweight and is shirtless. Like, that's not why it's funny. It's funny because it's comedic to dance with a blanket, like it made me so comfortable with myself, and I'm very grateful I did it, and so I recommend to anyone to really just step out of their comfort zone from time to time. It doesn't have to be as big as dancing shirtless on a stage in front of hundreds of people, but
because that's pretty big.
Yeah. But I worked up to it, I started small. I started by going shirtless swimming, and then I did it more and more until I could do it in front of hundreds of people, It's the baby steps, like I talked about. It's the same principle for weight loss, and it's the principle for anything in life to grow and learn. You got to do it slowly with small steps. Some people are able to take bigger steps than us, and that's okay. Right. We're all at different levels and journeys, and we just got to focus on what we can do to improve ours.
And one of my favorite things that you just said in that whole story that I actually think is pretty profound, and maybe this is a place to sort of close this interview on is you mentioned the fact that people didn't care. Like your blanket fell down, they weren't laughing at you, they were laughing because it was funny. You thought they were going to judge you, but really at the end of the day, like they were just happy to be there having a good time.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% think that and agree with that. Like, I don't really have a specific example. I think like you just have to kind of block out that noise a little bit, you know, of that fear of being judged by others. And it's hard. It's always going to be there if you have that fear. Yeah. And that's why exposure therapy is great, because then you can block that fear out even more and realize that it's untrue. But I just try to think about things very logically and then emotionally, and then try to meet in the middle. Like, I may be feeling fearful that this person's judging me, seeing me in my underwear on stage, but also logically, they're just enjoying a fun time because it's hilarious for someone to drop their blanket in a very vulnerable setting, and that's funny. And so I mean in the middle, like, yeah, there's a possibility they could judge me, but it's really, you know, logically not that. You know, it makes sense logically, and it makes sense emotionally, and you just have to work for it.
And I think with all that said, and given this wonderful journey, I'm sure it's less a journey. It's probably been a battle that you've been on. If you were to give any advice, be it one sentence or several, to somebody out there right now that is in the shoes that you were in 2 or 3 years ago, what advice would you give them?
I would just say start. Just start now.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just go.
Just start today. Even if you binged today or whatever, you did something unhealthy that you deem as unhealthy. So what? That was yesterday. That was a minute ago. You have now. And you can start now. You don't have to have some superficial time to set up. Like, I'm going to start Monday. You know, when I told myself I was going to start Monday, I never got anywhere. The world got in the way. Life got in the way. I would say just start now. Take the time to love yourself now. I think this is a form of self-care and self-love, but it's tough love.
I love that, because some people believe that self-love is actually the opposite. Is to not push yourself, is to not do the hard thing. It's okay to sort of, you know, not want to come out of your shell and not want to, I don't know, do the hard thing. I actually think I agree with you that self-love really is pushing yourself to be the person that you know you're capable of being.
Yeah, and hard things make us better. Truly. Failure makes us better. Like I said, you got to choose your hard. You're already, if you were where I was at, 320 pounds, you were already living a hard life. Do the hard that's going to make it less hard, you know, like, and it sounds simple. And I know it's not simple for those who were who are in my old shoes. Like, I know it's not simple, but at the core of it, it is simple. You just have to take those baby steps to get to that, you know, that point.
And over time, you'll feel good about yourself. Yeah. You're not punishing yourself. Yeah. You're actually building yourself up.
And also realize you don't need to be perfect. No one is. Yeah. There's always going to be people who are better than you, and there's always going to be people who are worse than you. And you just have to accept that that's okay.
Well, that is absolutely beautiful. It's been a pleasure to meet you and to have you come on and share your story. So I just wanted to thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it too. This has been awesome. And I'm hoping that maybe my story can help other people, you know, and inspire other people. I am also personally a very religious person myself. And I like to think that I don't share these things to boast, but to inspire and guide, just like, you know, they teach about in the Bible. So yeah, thank you.
Well, you've already helped one, so you could safely say that it's been a success. And for anybody that's interested in checking you out on your socials, do you want to just plug them quick before we close?
Yeah, my YouTube is just at bswizzle, or you just search up Bryson, weight loss and health, and the same thing for TikTok. I have a little nickname somebody gave me, and I just stuck with it, you know. And but yeah, just TikTok and YouTube, Bryson, weight loss and health, or bswizzle, you know.
Awesome, man. Well, I have a strong feeling that the listeners may want to have you on for a round two. So
that would be awesome.
We'll see you soon. But in the meantime, thank you again.
Thank you.